Good afternoon, everyone. Today we are stripping down this 1970 Super Bee. A little bit different of an introduction this time because there was a ton of stuff going on in the shop and we had to get this car in today. So you don't have to see my ugly mug. But let's have a quick look at this thing before we get it in our paint removal tank. Funny thing about this car is, this time I actually know how hard this car was. This is one of the few times I'm doing the voiceover when this car's already been finished. So, spoiler alert, this is one of the hardest cars I've ever done. But as you can see, everything seems to be pretty straight on it. Seems to be that way anyway. But let's have a look at the inside here. You can see we got a questionable patch right there. I don't know what that's about. It's covering up a pretty decent hole in the floor. Firewall looks pretty solid. Under the roof with those braces looks pretty rusty. We got some rust in the floor. You can see we got some rust holes coming through there. But all in all, doesn't look too bad. The rockers seem to be holding up all right. Quarters look nice and straight. Doesn't look like there's a dent in there at all. We got some sanding, and as you can see, we got some filler under there. I wonder how thick that's going to get. Back here, everything looks nice and straight. We had a little bit of rust on the windshield. On the rear end, you can see we got some rust coming through, and we have a glossy black on the back there. There's a few layers to this car, I'm going to tell you that right now. Trunk is a little bit rusty. We got some pinholes coming through, mostly surface rust. Come around to the passenger quarter. Looks nice and straight, but I guarantee we're going to uncover some surprises. Have a look at the passenger side floor. A lot of pitting. Nothing too crazy. Passenger side is pretty solid. And let's go back to the front and we're going to get this thing in the tank. Okay, now that we got the majority of this paint and filler off, let's have a close look at this metal. As you can see, the firewall actually is pretty solid. We do have some rust up here, just a little bit, nothing too crazy. You can see we still have some paint on here, and this does go in the tank one more time. And I did some hand work with it, did some sanding, and used a little more aggressive chemical. This car took a lot of work. And it was really hard to do a video on because none of that pressure washing was satisfying, and that's usually what people like. So we'll see how this video does. You can see all that rust in the floor there. That's probably going to open up by the end. The nicest part about this car, honestly, is probably the floor. Metal looks really nice, actually. The quarters were like completely sculpted with filler. You can see it's all beat up there. We still have a little bit there, and all those holes punched in there with filler sticking through it. It had to have been like a ½ inch thick in some areas. It really took a lot of focus with the pressure washer to get it off. And this video is actually a little older. This is before I had my GoPro and stuff. Newer videos coming out will be a lot better for cars like this. And I don't know if you noticed when I was pressure washing, there were multiple layers of black and like a red primer. And every time we put it in the alkaline dip, a layer would come off. It didn't look like a lot was coming off, but if you looked closely, it was. There was some pretty thick seam sealer all through this car. I dug a lot of that out by hand. A little bit of paint back there. And I'm gonna use a little bit more aggressive chemical to remove most of this paint, and then it's gonna go back in the alkaline tank for one more dip, but I'm probably not gonna show it because that's a lot of repetition. You can see on this quarter was replaced, and look how much filler we have there. It's just so thick. And coming up here, you can see we got this long patch between the pillar and the quarter, just all welded up there, completely stacked with filler. Come to the passenger side. Metal looks good here. A little bit of rust, but pretty solid. We had another nice patch of filler on this cowl here. Head back to the front, and as you can see here, it's going in the acid bath, and you can see there's some flash rust on it. When I use that more aggressive chemical, it does flash up. It's not something you'd be able to do at your house because you need an acid bath right after it, or that. Like, the flash rust doesn't hurt the metal at all because it's immediately going into the acid bath after that. And it's gonna spend about 2 days in here. Here you can see we're pulling it out. And as you can see, the metal's a little darker on this one. I don't know why, but it always lightens up after we get a dip or two in the acid. But all metal's different. I don't know why it turned out dark like this when we're pulling it out this time, but it definitely lightens up. Let's go get this thing washed. Here you can see after we pull it out of the acid bath, we immediately go over to the alkaline bath to neutralize all of the acid. Remains in here for about 10 minutes. We pull it out, and then we're gonna take it over to the wash bay and give it its final pressure washing. The 1970 Super B is all finished up and down to bare metal. This thing was pretty tough. The paint was a little rough and there was a lot of filler, so that took a little more time. It ended up finishing up very nicely. So let's have a quick look at it and see what we're working with. So up front here, not a whole lot going on. Everything's pretty solid. But as we work our way back, you'll see we have a lot going on. A little bit of pitting, but no real rust holes coming through anywhere up here. And as you can see on the cowl, we have some holes there where there was some filler stacked. We'll look at the roof. Everything looks good. Rockers are pretty solid. We have this little patch here, the door jamb. Some rust holes coming through on the floor. We still have some rust inhibitor. I just pulled this thing out of the rust inhibitor, so the bottom is still wet. But it is like 120 degrees in the shop right now, so I am sweating my butt off and it's drying pretty quickly. You can see we got this patch right here. That's definitely not factory. And a whole bunch of rot around it. You see those welds all around there. Some of this floor was replaced, maybe the whole floor, but you can see we got those welds and you can see the gaps there. I am dripping sweat right now. Look at the driver's side quarter panel. We had a lot of filler here and a lot of work done. You can see all those holes. That big seam right there, if I can show that on the camera. Come to the bottom of the quarter, towards the back, we've got a patch, pretty decent sized patch. Take a look at around this windshield, got a nice bit of rot coming through and welds and stuff where they tried to repair it. I imagine that's a pretty tough spot to repair, especially on this car, how it's shaped. Come to the back. Now the passenger quarter was definitely replaced. You can see this part over here is overlapped, and on this side it's on the opposite side, so they didn't match it up quite correctly. And you can see the brazing around there. Have a look at the trunk. We got a lot of pitting here, a lot of rust holes coming through. Still a lot of good metal though. Things not that bad. I've seen way worse. Come to the passenger quarter. You can see we basically have that same patch as on the driver's side. And here's where it gets good. You see where that was cut and that patch welded in there. That's something, huh? Get a closer look at all this right here. All those welds and repairs. Have a look at the, oh wait, we got some more holes there where there was some filler. Have a look at the driver's side floor. pretty solid over here. I'm guessing maybe this car was from around Pennsylvania or something. It's not that bad, but the salts on the roads and stuff on the driver's side, usually where I see rot coming through when it's an East Coast car. And back to the front. So as you can see, this car finished up super nicely. I always enjoy getting a Mopar in the shop. For some reason, Mopar videos seem to do the best too. So we'll see how this one does. But I really appreciate you guys sticking around to the end of the video. As you can see, I am filthy and covered in sweat, so I'm gonna get out of here. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate every single one of you, and I will see you at the next car.